Here we have PianoForte Level 2. This video will give an overview of this method, some ideas on how to teach it, and you can watch the Level 1 video, PianoForte Level 1, if you hop over to the YouTube channel or the PianoForte blog. So this is following on from that video as Level 2 follows on from Level 1. So the biggest thing that happens in Level 2 is the introduction of the stave. So in Level 1, students were playing with pre-notation using solfa syllables and sort of using little diagrams of the piano. This method introduces the concept of the stave, beginning with a little bit of a review of the solfa. This book can be used if students haven't, if they're kind of transfer students, or if they've been in another method and they're maybe struggling with some concepts. You can come straight to this level, and these pages give you the chance to fill in some of those solfa gaps that they might have. But if they're coming from Level 1, these pages are just a small review. Now, we introduce in this book the concept of silent singing. So this is really starting to develop this inner ear, this aural ability of hearing the music in our heads, which of course Gordon calls audiation. And so they have the chance to sing the notes in green and sing and out loud, and sing the notes that are pink in their heads. This is a fun exercise, and this page, you can really play around with this page, and you can come back to this page as you work through the book and remind them of how things sound. The next concept is the introduction of the music alphabet. This is the first time they've been introduced to the alphabet, because in Level 1 they're introduced to the solfa syllables and the concept that things can move around the keyboard instead of this fixed idea of the alphabet a letter belonging to each key. So the first level really highlights the idea of what ends up being movable do solfa, where tonality moves around the piano. And now in this level, we do need the fixed concept of the alphabet. And so we introduce that. So this is the first time that they've seen the A, B, C, D, E, F, G applied to the keys. And this is the first time that we're kind of dealing with piano geography in this way. So this song is a very fun song, because it's interactive and it can be played really quickly. They start on the lowest A on the piano. They go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then the little prompt is hands on head and hands on knees. So they have to lift their hands off the keyboard, tap their head, tap their knees, and then immediately start playing from the next octave up. What this does is forces them to really start to engage visually with the keyboard. It's fun, and it has this opportunity here in the grand pause where the teacher has to run around the keyboard to then start playing lower. It's fun. This can take up a lot of a lesson and can be homework. I always send this home as practice homework, because then they really just have a week to just really work on piano geography. Then there's a theory page, and this can be homework or done in lessons, obviously. Then we introduce the idea of the treble clef, or the G clef, with a little bit of theory, and that this line that travels through the treble clef is treble G. So I will take a while highlighting where G is on the piano, and that it's specifically this G that's sort of in the middle of the keyboard. It's treble G. And then again, there is a song that's the G song, where the hands take turns playing on the G note. This reinforces the idea that the left hand is not always the bass clef, and we are playing notes with either hand. Students are used to this because from Level 1, they've been moving their hands around the keyboard. So we have the G song. Now the next, and then we have this page that highlights how the stave works. So you can use this however you want, and you can return to these pages anytime a child demonstrates a bit of confusion. So we have treble G. This is the note that's higher. It matches the higher note on the piano, and so on. And you can kind of just build around. Perhaps on this page, I might say, play treble G. Now play this one. play this one, and skip them around a bit, just to give them practice on how the stave functions, because it is a bit of an abstract sort of idea. After that, we go into about 6 pieces that all are drilling treble G as a landmark. And each piece has a pre-notation side, which they know how to read if they're coming from level 1, with 3 positions. This is technically much easier to play than the pieces they were playing in level 1. And so this comes very quickly. We sing it together. They can also sing it, because this is really easy solfa to sing if they're coming from level 1. Then we transfer that basically over here. They find treble G and they read. What's really fascinating is, because of the pre-notation on the other page and because of their experience with pre-notation and solfa, they understand that that is basically do, re, mi, and then skipping back down to do. So you don't have to teach that this is line, space, line, skip down. Since using this method, I never teach that way. The students recognize that that's treble G, do, re, mi, do, re, mi, do, re, mi, 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 re, do. That's how they're reading it. They don't need any notes written in outside of this first landmark, and that's only written in just to help give them a reminder, because of course they have already learned that that's treble G. And then we go through in a progressed way, adding songs and slightly more complications on each song. Every once in a while we pause to do some silent singing, because it will relate to songs coming up, and it helps them be able to sing the solfa side, which then helps them read this side. This song, Toast, is very fun, has a really fun accompaniment for the teacher to play, and it's 2 hands on the same stave. Again, this is very interesting to watch them read this, because it's the 2 hands, and because they sang it and played it over here in pre-notation. They understand that this is a skip, because it is skipping over T. That's skipping a solfa basically, and they understand that. They can basically sight read that. Again, the landmark notes are only because they're in early days of knowing these letters and where they belong on the piano. So that's all they have to write in. After that, they understand. Again, we move along a little bit more elaborately and more silent singing. The silent singing is designed for whatever kind of solfa syllables are coming up. And triple meter, more songs. These songs, I've always had students play these pieces in recitals, and sometimes we do some improvisation with it where they might play it 1 octave and then do it an octave higher, or we invent some kind of coda, sort of cadenza ending for them, and we have fun with it. They're always prompted to put in a tempo, and I let them choose whatever tempo they think sounds musical, and we just have fun with it. The pre-notation over here, the piano positions are getting more elaborate as they move into different keys using more black notes, and they just get it because they've been doing it. More silent singing. This is a favorite song, My Pony. This always features in recitals. They love this. They love the words. We sing the words. The accompaniment is really nice. Again, they're using the music heartbeat. We stop using the heartbeat symbol in level 3 and swap it to a normal time signature number, but in this level we're still using it. And they can count heartbeats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, ta, ti, ti, ta, ta. They understand this, and it gives a good way to practice it. Then the next landmark note is bass F. Of course, this is because the line, it's easy to find this line on the bass clef, and it's the same principle. The F song highlights bass F and gives them a chance to lift their hands off the keyboard and re-find bass F, hands off the keyboard, and so on. This is a fun accompaniment, and everyone really likes it because the tempo, we usually try to choose a quick tempo. Then we have the same idea here where we're building the stave around bass F, conceptually. This is really just a page for understanding this conceptually. And then we have a series of songs that progress in the same way as the treble clef songs did, but now focused on bass F. I often have them play some of these earlier pieces hands together, an octave apart, if they're technically ready to move their hands in that way. They can double it up a little bit. And then we add 2 hands on the same stave, and it progresses along like this. Midway, we introduce a musical concept, the diminuendo and the tie. The reason these are introduced together is because on the piano, tie is a way of diminuendo, making a sound diminish, and it allows the piano student in particular to really learn how to listen to the decay of sound, which is such an important element in piano music and in piano literature. So we introduced the diminuendo tie together with this kind of improvisational piece that they can choose any notes on the black keys to play, and then they're listening to the diminuendo. It's this sort of first way of teaching phrasing. And then this next piece, which is a bit busy, has the diminuendo and the tie at the end. So they're really consciously aware that that's what's happening at the end, and they can make that musical. This piece is interesting because it introduces sort of ledger lines, but they don't even, I've never had a student actually ask what that is because they just get it. They understand the way it's functioning. So they just play a note higher. And they've played it over here on the solfa side. This piece is actually quite advanced when you think about the way the notes move around, because we do have some more drastic skips that they read with ease. This is one of those pieces where you realize the child really understands notational reading. Now, we introduce the concept of rests at this point because of what comes next, and take a moment. They can take this home as a piece to practice, and they can play it with a family member or come back and be able to play it with the teacher because it's a canon and it helps them focus and count, and it's fun, the clapping canon. Now, we introduce the grand stave after this using our landmark notes, bass F and treble G, which they recognize even if they have to think about it. And then middle C in the middle. Middle C can sometimes be written higher up, sometimes lower down, depending on kind of where the melody is. We know this, and this is how I explain it to them. Then we have some theory, because they really do need to drill this a bit. So we have some theory that we do together or send home as homework. And it's just drilling the difference between those 3 notes, because the next piece is the C song, which is a 12-bar blues piece that alternates hands on middle C, uses bass F and treble G with a bit of a jazzy accompaniment. This is a fun song. This song, depending on the child, can take a couple of weeks, and you can really sort of pause in the middle of the book and sort of use this as a chance to review all the things you've been doing. And then we go through with pieces that are now written on the grand stave. Technically, and from a solfa point of view, these songs are very, very easy for them to play. So they read them very quickly, and they understand the reading. We have landmark notes written in, again, just to remind them, because we did just learn it, but it's just a reminder. And it gets more elaborate. The reading, for example, right here, when you go down to this note, can actually be confusing in some cases, but for these children learning in this method, that's not confusing. More silent singing, and we start to progress gradually, gently, each concept on another. More elaborate fingerings, more elaborate rhythms, fun tunes that can have quick tempos and fun accompaniments. These are really recital friendly. We've started adding some folk songs at this point, so some of these they may recognize, and they're fun. we carry on in this way with some more elaborate rhythms. This is a favorite piece, even though the rhythm needs a bit of practice sometimes. So this is really fun. That's such a unusual piece they find so interesting. And then the last piece is in minor mode. It's called the Gnome, and it's really beautiful, triple meter, honestly, some elaborate types of reading, but they understand it because of what they have been doing. The fingering over on this side is getting more complicated, and this is the last piece in level 2. Level 3 begins to really drill them on understanding the stave itself, but it's such a natural progression from this level that their reading is just flying along at this point. So that is an overview of PianoForte Level 2, the second book in the PianoForte series.